First of all, thank you all for joining us tonight. We're actually joining in this conversation to this evening. The what prompted this conversation was, of course, all of us was looking at the news when when this happened, because it was live with George Floyd.
Yes.
And with me, I was sitting at home. I was sitting there watching the news. You know what? After you finish crying, then you get angry, and then you figure out what is it that we can do. Or I was looking at what is it that I can actually do. So I said, you know what? I can use my voice, and because God told me use what you have, and that's what I did. So the first thing I did was I had a conversation with my nieces and nephews, and it ranged from like 8 years old to like 18 years old. So we had a conversation, and we talked about, what they thought about the video, what they thought about the Black Lives Movement, Matters movement, just a plethora of different things. And so that was an interesting conversation. And then
in itself, I'm sure.
It was because it was something that needed to be had. And then I put the clarion call out to my white friends, because I said it was time that I have a conversation with them.
Right.
I put the video out. I was like really in a bad place, because I was just really depressed to think that even though we know, but to actually know. And so I put the clarion call out, and I had three of my friends that actually reached out to me. And, so when they reached out to me, we had the conversation, and I sent them a video and a clip, and it was we talked about implicit biases, because that was for me to hear, what their biases were, because we all have them.
Right. Yes.
So we had that conversation. I'll be more than happy to share that clip with you all, if you like. But then I said, you know what? It's time to have a conversation with my brothers. Because no one can speak for you all but you. I share the same complexion, the same race, but I can't speak for you. I can walk beside you, but I can't speak for you. So I purposely chose you all to actually participate in this. It was intentional for the people that I selected to come out and to have a conversation on racism. And then I also had you all, watch a clip. So let me first, introduce myself. My name is Pam Ford, and I'm just a program coordinator facilitating this discussion. And I did this because this is what I chose to do, to use my voice. What I'd like to do is take about maybe 15 to 30 seconds for you all to introduce yourselves, and then we'll start our conversation. So we'll start with you, Kaylin.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm Kaylin Patterson, a natural bodybuilder, mentor to at-risk children in Chicago, very active in the church, very active in my community, and very active actually in people's lives. So I really want health and fitness to be paramount. And on top of health and fitness, you also have mental health fitness. So if you make stronger minds, you make stronger bodies. And anybody that can be built up from the mind on, you increased tenfold, because they end up helping their neighbors and themselves and anybody around.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kaylin.
All right. Well, I'm Anthony Galvin. And so let me tell you what I do. I'm an IT manager is what I am. So I deal with anything having to do with anything that is electronic, anything that is digital. With that in mind, being in IT and hiring the individuals that I hire, my goal has been to increase the awareness in Black people in reaching their full potential, especially in the IT sector. I'm a career coach as well. So, not only am I trying to further the careers of my people, which there are so few of in this digital space that I occupy, but the understanding how they are viewed, how they see the world, how the world sees them, and how they interact within that space, is something that I take to heart, and I delve into. So you know, I did a lot more in Chicago than I'm doing here. I mean, yeah, I've been to protest here and whatnot in Dallas, but in Chicago, I would go to the city colleges and I would talk to the youth there, especially those getting ready to graduate from college, as people of color, right? What you can expect when you come out into the job world.
Wonderful.
And that's who I am. That's what I do. It's a lot more to it, but that's just a short intro as to kind of who I am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The one of the things that I do is I do have a non-for-profit organization where I help people with less than perfect backgrounds get jobs. That's one of the things that's close to my heart for the last few years. And then I've done an expungement program helping people clear their criminal records for the last 25 years. It's in my heart to do it because of not us, then who. What did you think of the video when you seen that?
Can I speak?
No, I'm asking him, then you're gonna go.
Okay.
So of the actual video, what did I think?
Mm-hmm.
The thinking came later.
There you go. Yes.
I think we have been in a place as Black people that, especially this generation, we're tired, right? And we're frustrated and we're angry. So the first thing that happens when you see the video is you react. And it's it's a visceral response, right? The video was almost a vindication of, if you lived on this earth long enough, you already know that these things have happened. They happen. They've been happening, right? This was just a vindication of what we already know.
Yes.
So what did I think about the video? It's kind of hard to put into words other than the fact that you hate that it happened. Are you surprised that it happened? No. Am I? Because I've seen worse. I've seen worse. Again, Pam, we grew up in Joliet, right? But after I left school, I lived in Chicago. I've been living in Chicago for over 35 years. Lived on the west side of Chicago, lived on the south side of Chicago. I've seen the police do some things quick and swift, So the first thing you think about after you get over the visceral response is, when is it going to stop? How can we stop it? And are we going to get him this time? We need to get him this time, get them this time. And it's more than just him, because when you look at that video, you see the other police officers standing there. So I'm looking at this wide view, right? I see him, but I see all those other officers along the way. I got friends that are police officers as well. And quite honestly, a lot of us are not friends anymore on social media because I'm asking them. I see you being a good cop. I see you being a good guy. First, I see you being a good man or a good woman. But if you're a good cop, or good person rather, good person, that should supersede you being behind that blue line. Why didn't y'all stop it? Why didn't you help this man? So what did I think? Thinking comes way, way later after the response, which is emotional, and it's a visceral response. And that's why I'm out there, and that's why we're out there protesting down there in downtown Dallas, and getting hit with, rubber bullets and tear gas, because I'm willing to die for my people. I'm willing to die for what I believe, And had I been there, and I said this the day I saw that video, I don't fault the lady that videotaped it, but if I had been there, I said, I would have pushed that man off. I would have pushed that cop off of him.
Yes.
They would have had to kill me. but I'd have pushed him off of him, you know. So that's my answer in a nutshell.
Okay. And I'm glad you weren't there because I'm glad that you still here to, to talk about it. All right, Kaylin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, for me, like initially watching the video, I'm already thinking, what's the narrative going to be pushed this time? Because it seems like it's always set. Here we go again. On as far as the Black community, what are they going to say to basically drive away another death by the hands of authority? And I was really blown away at how far they were willing to go to justify this man's death. And even once again, criminalizing a person that's unarmed, criminalizing a person that's not doing what requires a death sentence. Because I think that's the one thing where, in order to get that negative narrative pushed through, is that we have to take away this man's humanity. And I'm just always so surprised at the lengths they're willing to go to make that narrative happen. So here we go again with this man is evil. And my dad always used to say, when you were basically pushed in a corner, you'll get somebody that really doesn't like you, but just happens to look like you, to speak against you, to try and give it some kind of emphasis or basis or foundation where people will make it relevant and try to make that the new narrative. Because even this Black person says this is a bad person. No one said this man was an angel. No one said he was a hero. But that's the narrative being pushed, to basically say, well, he was a criminal anyway, so he should be put to death. And I said, put to death for what? What are we being put to death for? A traffic violation? An assumption? And that requires a death sentence? And the narrative is constantly pushing the fact that somehow, some way, this person, this man, this woman, this child deserved to die. And I said, if we're talking about lives having some kind of value and matter, when do we say, like we're saying now, enough? We were saying enough back in Bensonhurst in New York, when the guy's just going home to his door and being shot 30 times by 20 police officers. Why does it take 20 police officers to basically apprehend someone at their own home? The last thing he's thinking is going into the door, but guns blazing at his own house. So this is, this is like he said, like Anthony said, we're piling on the death count. And each time we pile on that death count, we're supposed to say in our own minds, well, maybe they're right. Maybe there is some relevance to this narrative. Maybe there's an understanding that we might miss, because humanity says no one could be this evil to put someone to death for a forged, an alleged forged check or an alleged assault. Because when they had him in cuffs, let's go back this once again, in cuffs, he's already been detained. He's already submitted to be taken to jail or wherever he's going to be taken. And yet, once again, another dead body. And if you're going to say he's a criminal, okay, let's say he's a criminal. Does he deserve a death sentence at the hands of the people that are supposed to be basically protecting society? Because the narrative is always the same. We're once again taking another life at a death sentence off of something that should be a $35, $75 court fine. And they're being put to death, and because some other Black person says, well, they were evil anyway. How many other people have shot people, and we know they've shot them, and they're going to Burger King?
This sort of pivots to the next point. And I think that's where the whole Black Lives Matter came, just even started. And I hear people say, well, all lives matter. Well, and what I share with people, this is me, my perspective, if all lives mattered, then Black lives would matter.
Yes.
Black lives would matter. So what I want to ask you all now is, what do you think about, and let's try to keep this to about 2 minutes so we can try to get okay. What do you all think about the Black Lives Matter movement?
Ooh. Well, you saw my post the other day.
I see your post. Yeah. They're going to Sure, but anyway.
So I'm kind of torn about
Okay.
Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I need to do so this is how I look at it. This is who I am. I prefer to speak intelligently once I know all the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because Black people have been so oppressed, so depressed, that we just took up the mantra of Black Lives Matter and we went and marched on with them. But again, my post was kind of questioning who is Black Lives Matter. You know, there's a question of them being founded by a gay Black woman, funded by George Soros, who in and of itself is rather nefarious, or he has a nefarious background in and of itself. I said to myself, well, maybe it's not so much the messenger, but the message.
Absolutely.
And so
Mm-hmm.
far, I've been going along with the message. What do I think about them? I think it's great for those. Black Lives Matter, and in and of itself, is a great vehicle for those, in my estimation, that's kind of just hopping on. Right? It's a great point, especially for white folks, for those that are trying to catch on and understand what we already know. You see,
Which is a blessing.
I and I'm getting there
Mhm.
because um, we've been telling the world that this is what's been happening to us. The only difference between then and now is the fact it's being videotaped.
Mm-hmm.
There's some evidence. I mean, there's no grand answer to that. So it's just that simple. It's being videotaped now. And now you got folks that are sitting up with cognitive dissonance saying, well, there got to be a reason why. There's got to be, it ain't what you see. It ain't what you. So you never were going to believe anyway. So
True.
Black Lives Matter is a great vehicle for all of us to hop on and get in like that little proverbial car and we can all go down the street. Do I need Black Lives Matter? Personally, no, I don't. As a Black man, what I need is my other Black brother. Now, Black
Mhm.
Lives Matter is a prop to hold up these other Black men so they can feel more comfortable standing next to me and sticking their neck out to fight for what we all supposed to be fighting for in the first place. Beautiful, great. I'm all for anything that's going to help us further our cause. Um, but I have to give it that caveat that because Black Lives Matter is a talking point on the positive side, it's also a talking point on the negative side too, as well, right? Because I got too many people, Black folks, on the other end of the pendulum that are saying, well, we killing each other. Where's Black Lives Matter? We killing each other. We can't love, they can't love us till we start loving ourselves. Where the protest at? So they're
That's another
using Black Lives
conversation.
Matter.
Yes.
Exactly. And I tell
Yes,
them that's another conversation.
absolutely.
But people like to conflate the two.
Of course they
And
do.
our white
Yes.
and white folks
It's a good
love to
distraction.
conflate the two.
Mhm.
Absolutely. What hurts me is that Black people are conflating the two.
Mhm.
I just fell
Mm-hmm.
out. Wait, what's today? Thursday? I
Yes.
just fell out with a buddy of mine that I've been knowing for 25 years
Mhm.
for that very same thing. And he's using Black Lives Matter as a sledgehammer,
Mhm.
right? Instead of using it as a tool to dig deeper, right? So, the long and short of it is I think that Black Lives Matter, used properly for what I hope it's intended to be used for, can be a positive tool, uh, especially for those who aren't Black, to
Yes.
understand our plight and help them down the road so that they can go out and they can speak to all of those other people that look just like them.
Good. Thank you. Kaylin?
Well, for me, like Black Lives Matter, in its essence, in its purest form, It's basically a unified group of people saying, stop killing black people. We've been saying it long enough. When we became one unit, that's when we became a terrorist organization, by the FBI standards, which is shocking to me that it would be blown up to that state when you simply have people saying, if we can't be anything else, let's be civil and stop killing black people. And I said, for that connection to jump over to blacks and like you said, it's another discussion. And for me, I said, that's like comparing Dylan Roof to the cop that killed Eric Floyd. You're talking white people, yes, but you're talking two different circumstances, because you have basically, if you want to go with the terrorist unit, you can't say all cops are terrorists, but there's terrorists in the cop organization. I said, so if somebody has infiltrated Black Lives Matter and done something different other than what the whole thing was set up to be, then we have to basically break it down. And I would rather break it down piece by piece than to sit there and try to throw, because here we go again with the narrative of if one person is guilty of it, then all of them are guilty of it. And we're constantly not speaking to ourselves and each other and saying, let's go piece by piece of this, because we are individuals. We can sit down and talk instead of basically doing a narrative that encompasses all of it and try to fix it all now. If we do it piece by piece, I guarantee you'll find more room for compromise than less.
Absolutely. So, Anthony, what did you think about the looting that happened in the very beginning of this? Actually, I call it a pandemic, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're out protesting, but some things you just got to do with a mask on and just 6 feet apart. But what was your take on the looting?
I think that, we've seen so many times that we've had these incidents happen throughout the country, and black folks get mad, we get up in arms, we go marching and we go protesting, and it's over with in 2 or 3 days, and everybody goes back to normal. I hoped and I prayed that it wouldn't stop this time.
Yes.
So far, it hasn't stopped. My feeling about the looting.
What hasn't stopped, the looting or the protest?
Well, the protesting part of it hasn't stopped. The looting aspect of it is just a spoke in the wheel, you see, because.
Yes, I agree.
This goes a lot deeper than what people who are not learning enough to understand. This goes a lot deeper than, you're burning up your own communities. This doesn't make any sense, blah, 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 blah. Well, when you're a race of people who've been, again, you've been economically depressed, socially you've been depressed, depressed. I think that what ended up happening here, which should have happened, was, you see, these states give huge incentives to these companies to come to their states to do business. These companies, such as Kohl's, such as Target, such as Walmart, such as Wendy's, and such as whomever, if those owners of those businesses say, hey, wait a minute, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Governor, we're going to have to make some changes here, because we're dropping these stores in places where these people are economically, socioeconomically oppressed and suppressed. So if we change the way that we're doing business, and we take some of that incentive money that you guys are cutting us a break on and reinvest that back into our communities, we may find that these people may feel differently about what's in their neighborhood, what's in their community, right? If you have a vested interest. If I had a vested interest in Kohl's, might I burn it down? Maybe I wouldn't be so quick to burn it down, you see? The people of Green Bay own the Green Bay Packers, right?
Yep.
So it's not one person that owns Green Bay Packers. It's the people who own it. I guarantee you they didn't burn down in Wisconsin. They didn't burn down Lambeau Field, right?
That's right.
because those people had a vested interest,
Wow.
right? We don't have a vested interest, and we never have, and until things change, we never will. But the message is still clear that people are angry, people are tired. And what is looting and the rioting and the protesting? Because you can't say one without the other, right? What has it all gotten us? It's gotten us talking about defunding the police. It's gotten us about dismantling the police. It's gotten us to a place where we've gotten to the table now and we're talking about things that we never ever talked about before. You see?
Outside of our own community.
Yes.
Exactly. Outside of our, exactly.
Well, for me, like, I shared this and I caught a lot of flack for it because Martin Luther King actually spoke out against it as well when he was talking, not against it, for it. He said, because if it's the voice of the unheard and that's the only way they're going to be heard, then maybe you should try listening instead of trying to shut them down.
Right.
No one brought anything to the table about anything, even after all this stuff had been burnt down and all the rioting and looting. And it's just amazing that even then, they're still trying to change the narrative away from why the anger, why the frustration, why this brutality. And I said, well, you're still demeaning this man's life because you're saying this property has more value than this man's life because you weren't yelling and screaming until the rioting had started. You weren't up in arms about anything until the rioting and looting. So you're still demoralizing and dehumanizing this man who died. And so I said, well, then this is exactly what Dr. Martin Luther King was saying when he said, if that's the last best that you have to be heard, then why don't you listen now? Because it's still anger. It's still frustration. And we're still waiting for the next black guy or black woman or black child to be put to death over nothing. And we should not be looking at that for people who are basically there to serve and protect and keep us alive. So if you want to see righteous fury from me about this, I'm not happy with it. But if that's what it takes for them to be heard, then God bless them, because they're saying enough. And when you have rage, like Anthony said, when you have rage, not anger, not hatred, when you have just rage,
right,
you're prone to do any and everything because you're not thinking clearly. So if they overstep the bounds, didn't the cop do the same thing? Are we supposed to say that his life, what is the value of this man's life? If you tell me it's a one city block, I say, no, it's more than that. If you burnt down this country, you still can't equal that man's life. As guilty as he might have been of past crimes, his life still should mean more than any city block.
Amen. It was ironic because I was listening to a young girl on the news about maybe a month ago when all of this started.
Don't say Candace Owens.
No.
Okay.
So who is that? No. So anyway, I was listening to her and one of the reporters, because the reporters is always looking for something, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
always.
And asked her, they said, well, so what do you think of the looting? And she looked her in the eye, the young lady did, and said, well, I personally was not a part of it. My mother taught me better. However, if it was just about us marching and this man, Mr. Floyd and all the other men that had been killed and women, you know what, it would have been about 2 days and you all would have covered it maybe 20 minutes until
and left town
to the news. She said, but once the looting started, then everybody started watching, because that's when the pockets, started having an issue.
Right.
And the news reporter looked, and when I thought about it, it made sense. It goes back to what you gentlemen just said. Is when it hit your pockets, basically, is what you're saying. Start taking notice. And that's exactly what happened. This was a young girl, probably 18 years old at the most. She had enough, insight to even convey that information to the reporter. So
that's deep. Yeah.
I mean, and that's what she said. And the reporter just said this like dumbfounded look on her face, like, wow, because she didn't have a comeback.
No, she can't.
Was saying was true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, now that this has happened, we're looking at some of the results
Mm-hmm.
of the rallies, the protests. What do you all think about some of the results that's happened? I mean, the Confederate movement. That's one thing, which it never
that should have been gone.
Never should have been up.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time on that, because results. I want to be focused on results. Now you have companies, and Anthony, you had alluded to this earlier about like Target and some of the other companies. Now they're coming out, they're hiring, they're putting this big hiring events on, they're hiring parties. I mean, they're bodaciously stating, we're looking for, Black and brown people to hire them. They're giving out scholarships. They're putting, they were a part of Juneteenth celebrations.
Right.
Yep.
All these different things. And that's great. You don't know how long it's going to last, but Target is nice. The clothing stores are nice, but I'm looking at the big companies where it's impact. The grocery stores, Walmart, those stores, that's nice. But what about the big companies? So I just wanted to get you all's take on that, as far as, especially, I know, Anthony, that, you are a hiring manager. So what did you think of that, and what more can be done?
That's a good question. I don't really have an answer for that yet, because things are just right now being initiated. We haven't started to see the results of what that is yet, right? Because again, we knew, unless you were a government entity, this diversity in hiring was all a sham. The stigma of being Black goes so deep. There's so many cracks and crevices. I remember when LinkedIn first got started.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on LinkedIn literally since it started. So at this point, I'm a power user at this point. Black folks had a stigma about putting a picture up on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Why? To say why? Say why.
And the obvious reason is because that employer now can look and see whether or not you're Black.
Mm-hmm.
They can look and see whether or not, well, are you dark-skinned Black or are you light-skinned Black? Because now you come to
another whole conversation.
It depends on how far down this rabbit hole you really want to go.
On that.
Mm-hmm. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
See, because white folks, they have an easier time the lighter you are as a Black person. You see, and they may feel a little bit more at ease by hiring a lighter skinned Black person than a darker skinned Black person. See, me as a dark skinned Black man, I figure I am the epitome. I'm the walking monster. I am he. You see, so
it's true now.
And it's the truth. So I can get singled out. My name is Anthony Galvin. He sounds like he could be white. I'm not really sure, but now with that picture up there, I can see. Mm-hmm. You see? So that was a stigma that we had to, and don't think that these companies don't use that still even today, because they do. They still use it. So this hiring, being diversified thing, I hope and I pray that it continues.
Mm-hmm.
At least the energy continues, because trust me, whatever you seeing out there on that street that you see on your local news, imagine what's happening in the boardrooms. If you can see that out on the street, on your local news, imagine what's happening in these boardrooms, in these HR rooms, right? That you can't see, that you can't hear. So that's one of the reasons why when we first started this conversation, I, being in the IT space, I know that if I pick up, and I'll just use nice round numbers, if I pick up and I read 100 resumes in the space that I'm in, I am lucky to find 5 that are African American.
Mm.
But if I find 5 that are Black, and if they're anywhere remotely close, then I'm going to take them and I'm going to coach them up. And I'm going to do everything that I can to get them that job.
Man.
And that's the real, when people ask me why I do what I do, it's for those little gems like that, right?
Thank you, Anthony.
That, you know, so I just want to throw it because I get emotional about things like that, because there's so much money to be had, there's so much security to be had in this space that I play in, that we don't play in because of the stigmas that are attached to being Black. You see, and then some of us play into that. Black people don't like science. Black people don't like numbers. That's
the
not
narrative.
but it's not true.
It's not true.
You see,
Wow.
But if you tell a person anything enough times,
they'll believe it.
Begin to believe it.
Well, I know for our area, you know, I can speak to the businesses we had, and I was very cross with some of my brothers and sisters on this, because we've heard the narrative and we know better. A lot of us might be living in darkness, but there's plenty of us that's living in the light, and we're not more outspoken for fear of kickback. And we have to step beyond that, because that fear is always going to be there until we stomp it out. But one of the things that I did, because we had, racists came out of the woodwork during this time. And they were very vocal on the social mediums, and they couldn't believe that they were being called out, but like they were being called out. And I was going to the stores. I said, look, if this is the cop, then we're going to that cop. If this is somebody working at Kroger, then we're going to Kroger. And it was amazing, because, you know, you hear the narrative that, you know, they watching you like a hawk. If you mess up on social media, that's no, they watching Black folks like a hawk. They're not watching their brothers and sisters. So when they were doing this kind of dirt and these racist rants, they didn't get called out as quickly. But when it was pointed out and they had to look in that direction, there was an immediate response. I mean, there wasn't no delay. Get them out of here, because they did not want to have their businesses burned down. And the Black people was mad, and they was going out there and they said, oh my Lord, we're going to lose our store. And then we started seeing a lot faster reaction. So this lady, we've had 28 people in our region that just went wilding out. And I'm talking white people with their racist rants, and they were called out. 3 police were dismissed. I thought they should have been, you know, at least charged with some kind of hate crime, because you're talking about running people over. That's not, you know, that's not free speech. That's death threat. But, you know, it's been some reaction in this area, and I'm glad that the businesses stepped up when they had to, even though their hand had to be forced to do so.
Right.
Wonderful. And the thing is with me, I am just who I am. And what I have to say to you, I'll say to anyone else in the workplace, because you know what? I'm smart enough to say what I feel. And I'm also smart enough to know that if I can't stand in the truth of who I am, I can't be productive anywhere.
Yeah.
You call a spade a spade. So
Careful
with people, when you're not speaking up, you know what, you wear this mask. And when you're not speaking up, you know what, you're only hurting yourself.
Yes.
The goal in a nutshell for me is I work around, you know, predominantly, you know, white people. It's probably about maybe 40%, you know, Black. And I don't really have an issue, because anything that comes to me, you know what, I'm going to be able to thoroughly advocate for myself, because that's just who I am. And so when you're that type of person, they're going to keep a lot of that away from you.
Right.
Am I right, Anthony?
Yeah.
You are very
They're going
right.
to keep a lot of that away from you. What hurts me is when I see other people that's not as strong,
Right.
convictions, and they don't know how to advocate for themselves. That's where I have an issue. So I have to step back, take a breath, you know, advise them, you know, you have to speak up for yourself. people can't speak on your behalf unless you can stand on your own 2 feet.
Well, you know what Nat Turner did?
Because I see it happen all day, every day. I don't care if it's just a workplace, if you are out and about. I mean, you see it happening, and people are stressing out. People, that's why you have all of these, crazy shootings and things in these companies, because people are feeling devalued.
Some kind of way. That's right.
People are feeling devalued. And so the thing is that, they get stressed out. Like Kaylin, you mentioned in the beginning, that, there's not enough mental health avenues for people to actually partake in at work. And then if they do, then it's like, they're sort of shunned, oh, well,
they considered weak.
Crazy such and such. So the thing is, when you see people out, I just believe that it's important to advocate for self. And why do you think you have so many people, that are starting their own businesses? But even with people starting their own businesses, you still have to know how to run a business.
Yes.
You may have the desire, let's say, to cook.
Black Wall Street, baby.
Cars, but if you can't run a business, it means nothing. Because I've seen people's businesses just fall by the wayside because they know how to do what they do, but they don't have a business mind. Therefore, because they've never worked at a company, but they want to start their own business. And so sometimes you have to work at companies so you can find out how to properly run things. You think you have so many people that worked at companies, and all of a sudden now, they branch out within 5 years, 10 years, and they start their own company because they took the skill set that was there for them to learn, and they took it and they allowed themselves to be molded, to learn the skill set, so they were able to go out and I mean, and that's just, like I said, I just hate to see people wrong. But some people, like I said, if you allow yourself to continuously be a doormat, people will continue to walk over you. Because
man can't ride your back.
And the way I see it is this: I won't walk on you, but I will step over you. And that's just the way that I feel, because I will do what I have to do, but I don't want to do it against you, but I will step over you to get what I need to get done, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then the thing is, another big thing is like the sports. I'm not a real big sports fanatic. I mean, I like basketball, but my team, the Warriors is not really playing this year, but it's all good. But,
Lord, another Warriors fan.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't no bandwagon.
But at any rate,
I hope it wasn't no bandwagon.
Look, no, I've been watching basketball now for about 4 straight years, all because of the Warriors. And you know what I love about them? It's the camaraderie that they have with the team.
I'm
I don't
leave
know
that
anything
alone.
about sport.
You on your own on that one.
But it's the camaraderie. No, you know what? Whatever. Y'all just jealous. But it's the camaraderie that I see with those men on that team.
You know, brother.
We're gonna leave that alone, okay?
You're gonna have to sit by yourself.
Next.
Right,
Don't hate.
Iron Rosa Parks.
But look, you right. Hey, but let me tell you this. We're gonna leave that alone. But look, but let me just share this. What did you all think, first of all, of Roger Goodell, his supposed apology, and then people like LeBron? He's not my favorite basketball player.
No.
I love his community service endeavors.
Yep.
Philanthropy.
That. I love him for that. So I like to y'all's take on the sports arena, the NFL, the NBA. What do you all think about that? And should they move forward with playing?
Well, the short answer is no. See, I have played organized sports for over 14 years. And sports is viewed as a gateway for people to escape reality. To live somewhere else other than where they are currently at. You get to idolize your favorite player, no matter what the sport is. Rugby, football, baseball, basketball, tiddlywinks, don't really matter. Whatever you love, it's your way to escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In this time, in this day, and in this age, nobody needs to escape. I don't need not one soul to be distracted from the agenda at hand.
Wow. That's powerful.
On task. You see, I don't want you on Sunday watching football game. I don't want you on Friday and Saturday night watching the basketball game when you could be doing something to further the pride, the pride, the will, and the power of Black folks. We on this train. We need to keep it moving.
Stephen A. Smith has something different to say, but keep going.
I don't care about Stephen A. Smith.
I don't either.
I care less what he got to say, and I'll battle him anytime, anyway, any place, name it. You see, but I understand.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Mm-hmm.
sports is a business,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I understand that they want to get it going because these people
They ain't making the money.
Right.
right? Why is Trump trying to open up the economy? It's for the same reason. They need to get this money going. Not to mention, he needs this economy going because that's the only thing he really got to run on for his reelection. You
That's
see,
right.
so all these people that are hobnobbing in that at that level, at that space, they all thinking along the same line.
Money.
And they all need that money to keep flowing. We need to placate the people, right? And pacify them.
Distract them.
We need nobody pacified right now. I don't want nobody pacified. As much as I love sports, and anybody that know me I love sports, boy, and I bleed orange and blue. Okay, I love my Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I don't get a chance to watch the Bears play this year or next year because we got something going. This right here going on. I'm okay with that.
Amen. Okay, Kaylin.
Well, like my thing, if we're going to go after sports, like they're saying, you know, we got to go with the person that basically just set it out there by calling Colin Kaepernick an SOB. Mm-hmm. And that's our own president of the United States. When you personally attack one individual in the United States, everybody else fell in suit. And it really shows the ignorance of a nation when people are saying, you know, don't get in the way of our distraction, like Anthony was saying. You're getting in the way of our distraction by kneeling. You're getting in the way of our joy by I said, but you don't understand the definition of protest if you're saying that causes you discomfort. Of course it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. That's the whole point in doing it. You know, when I'm looking at people saying when they're walking the streets, run them over because it's making me late for work. The whole thing is to get you to talk about it. And I'm not worried about you being late for work because I could be dead tomorrow off of the ignorance we're dealing with right now, because it's just straight ignorance what we're seeing day in and day out. And for you to say it's uncomfortable for me to watch you mad because you could be dead tomorrow. I said, if you really think about that deeply and then tell me all lives matter, it's hypocrisy at the least and just incredibly insane at its highest point. For us to keep trying to distract the truth of reality and say, for some reason, this is not important about Black lives making it till tomorrow. I'm really amazed that we're so disheartened and so disingenuous to speak so openly that you don't really matter, even though my life matters, because you're making me uncomfortable with all this conversation. I've had people message me in Messenger asking me to shut up because I usually have more positive posts. I said, this is a very positive post if you just listen. But because it causes you to react instead of basically being comfortable in your actions, somehow I should shut up and fall in line and follow suit. That's not what we're doing. So sports is basically distracting them from the reality of another Black man, woman, or child dying. And for some reason, we got to stop that conversation because it makes me uncomfortable. No.
And that's true. We got about 5 minutes left. So just in closing, you know, what's the next steps, you know, 2 minutes apiece. Just, what's the next steps? What do we continue at as a Black, you as a Black man? Where do we go from here?
Where we go from here is we continue to talk to one another. We continue to talk to those who don't look like us, because I firmly believe that we didn't make this. This burden is not ours to bear. You see?
Right.
So too long, my people have been talking. It's just been talking words in the wind, right?
Mhm.
I need these people, these white folks, and let's be honest, so these Mexican people too, but that's a whole nother conversation too.
Yes, it is.
Okay, to start talking to people that look like them, because they're not hearing me.
Absolutely.
They're not hearing people that look like me. We've been trying that for over 400 years, and clearly that ain't working, right?
All right now.
So that's where we go. And for those of us, like us sitting here today, who are able to articulate how we feel and put those feelings into words that are understandable, that can be, because see, there's a whole lot of us that look like us who don't understand that they need to be saved as well.
Absolutely.
Even more so.
Okay, let's wrap it up. But it's the truth. It's the truth.
Right. So
that's the truth.
We keep this going, and we keep the dialogue open.
Wonderful. Kaylin, about a minute and a half.
Yeah, well, one thing's for sure. In order to grow, we got to have our own. I would love to see more self-policing in our neighborhoods, and I'd love to see more people on the police force that came from the neighborhood, because they would truly identify and understand it more than somebody basically coming in here and seeing us as monsters, animals, and thugs. They would know the community much better. So come up from our own ranks. I mean, you know your neighborhood better than anybody else. I know my neighborhood better than anybody else. And if we start basically having the growth from the inside out, we can do away with some of this division that's basically plaguing the nation.
Amen. Thank you all so much. Man, we could talk for hours.
Yes.
Hours. Tomorrow I'm having a conversation with my Black women.
Okay.
And I can't wait to show you all that. And then maybe in a week or two, maybe we can all come back together,
send the invite
and have a conversation. That would be quite interesting, to say the least. But I am so incredibly proud that you all, you took the stance and you said, I'm going to get on here. I'm going to talk about this. We didn't put anybody down. We just,
what's the point?
At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Thank you all so much, Anthony. Yeah. Thank you, Kaylin. And excuse me. And then just everybody who just really participated, all the different conversations that you all had throughout the week over the last month. The conversations must continue. They have to be courageous conversations, and they must continue. So
absolutely.
Tonight, thank you so much. And only the beginning, because I can't wait for that conversation to come back full with the women on the line.
That's gonna be something.
Oh, that's gonna be something.
I'm a little nervous.
Exactly. You'll be okay, because we're gonna bring something. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful night, guys. Okay.